Welcome first, Phil. We're here for day 3 of DramFest. It's really exciting to have you back again. I can see a bunch of you already in the chat. Hey, Matthew, Tiger's in again, and good to have you, Macca, from the Bay of Plenty here as well. How you all going today? We actually have an exciting guest. We have the
managing
director from Raasay.
From the Raasay Distillery.
And so a lot of you might know Raasay from the online Scotch Whisky Awards. Fantastic distillery. Jeff and I from Jeff Whisky, we've talked a lot about the design of this bottle, which we'll talk about. But yeah, how are you finding DramFest so far?
Very good, very good. So thanks for having me on, Phil. And I'm going to make a little apology for the crowd. My voice is gone on day 2 of DramFest, so hold my hands up there. But that
means you've had lots of good whiskey banter. Yeah, lots of good whiskey banter.
So please just shout if you can't hear me, but hopefully it all works for you.
Everyone here all right? I guess if I'm ever on vacation in NZ, I have to come to coincide Dram. Yes, you do. You will have to do that. You get to meet all these people from Scotland. All these Scots just arrived.
Yeah, we all come down en masse on Thursday night. And then it's a weekend, pretty intense weekend of fun, which you can't complain. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. And everyone can hear all right. Sweet. So let's talk about, well, the good thing about your voice is actually a lot of the people watching back home have had to deal with my accent.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You guys tell me who's easier to understand. So yeah, today, tell me a little bit about, so people might not know about Raasay, where it is, and just a bit of background.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So the Isle of Raasay Distillery is a new single malt Scotch whisky distillery based on a small island on the northwest coast of Scotland called Raasay. And it's a small island just next to Skye, so between Skye and the mainland of Scotland. And it's a small community of 161 people, actually. And we were founded in 2015 by 2 Scotsmen, Bill Dobby, who's my father, and Alistair Day, who's our master distiller. And they came together with the vision of building a single malt distillery on Raasay, which was a recommendation of an old school friend of my dad's, whose wife Marion is from there. So he recommended to build on Raasay. It's one of the few Scottish islands without a distillery. The water source, which I can come on to, is an important part of our production, and it's also just a bloody beautiful place. So it came together in 2015. We started production September 2017, and released our first whiskey in 2020 in November, and the rest is a kind of short whiskey history.
and it's amazing to see, because I remember almost already, like the whiskies now you release. Actually, well, let's talk about what we've got in front of us.
Yeah,
then.
sure.
So what is oh no, actually, before I talk about that, when I visited Scotland, you know, probably my favorite as a tourist visiting Scotland was going to the Isle of Skye.
Okay. Yeah.
But Raasay's just over. You can catch a ferry, right?
Yeah.
So if you are going to Isle of Skye, like you guys are almost there, right? Like,
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
just a
So
ferry?
what you do to get there, depending where you're coming from, you would fly into the UK, either London and then up to Inverness, and up to Scotland, or you would go straight to Edinburgh, Glasgow, so straight into Scotland. And from Edinburgh or Glasgow, it's a roughly 5-hour drive up north onto Skye. Skye has a bridge that connects the island to the mainland, and then you drive up about half an hour up the east coast of Skye. There's a little ferry terminal on the way to Portree, which is the main town on Skye, and then you'd get a 25-minute ferry across from Skye. So it's it's a 2.5-hour drive from Inverness, and then onto that same ferry.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
could see here, Whiskey Canuck said, I visited Raasay in 2017 when it was under construction. Our group was given a tour of the site by Alistair, the architect. Very
Oh,
cool.
wow. Yeah, that would have been, so Alistair's our master distiller, and our architect at the time for the distillery, Ollie Blair. They must have shown you around. So
Yeah.
thanks for showing interest that early on in our journey.
Anthony said, the only Raasay I have is Isla Raasay Distillery Special Release Rye and Sherry 52%, unopened in my stash.
Oh, nice.
Sounds-
Nice. So that was something that we first released in 2021, a second release in 22, and it's actually quite interesting. That was initially a special distillery exclusive, and the reaction was so good to it, and so good for it, and our fans were really pleased with the liquid that we've actually developed that into one of our core products now. So quite often we use special releases and kind of smaller batch things to almost test out what the response is, and then if it's a good response, we'll develop that quite often into our core product.
So, yeah, I mean, I think you've got great liquid. But before I get to talking about the great liquid, I do want to talk about this bottle here. So I don't know if you guys have had Raasay before, but I think it is genuinely my favorite whiskey bottle design, because I like that have a look at this. See, you got like the kind of fossils on the glass. It almost feels like it's almost Jurassic or something.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that.
And then you got this kind of nice clean thing here. I mean, I've got a creative background, and you guys know Jeff Whisky as well. He loves it as well. But what I also really like is then for the geeks, there's all this awesome info, which we'll get into, which I wish every distillery did that, to be honest, to have that little bit more. But tell me a bit about this design, and like, I don't even know how you managed to have such a cool bottle and actually be able to still
Absolutely.
afford it.
So Raasay has a really quite unique geology. In fact, if you're lucky enough to hang out with geologists, they actually study on Raasay. So
do they?
and on Skye, there's a mountain range called the Kilchoman. For anyone who's ever been to Skye, you'll see big kind of quite dramatic mountain range. And the Kilchoman hills used to be volcanoes, and so Raasay was created in the kind of Jurassic era by erupting volcanoes, and so there's a completely diverse geology. And our distillery is built on a cross section of Jurassic sandstone and volcanic granite. And our water source is a 60-meter borehole right into the earth, where the water comes up through that stone and is used then in every part of our production. So it's used in distillation, which obviously there's varying schools of thought about how that affects the whiskey or not. But what's important for us is it's also used to reduce down to cask filling strength, and then that same water is used again several years down the line to reduce down to bottling strength. So we do all parts of that production on Raasay. We do distillation, maturation, and bottling, so that allows us to use the source water at every single stage.
Wow.
So
cool.
to reflect that unique geology, but then also just to encapsulate the sort of wild, rugged, and windswept island of Raasay.
I love it.
We went out this was in March 2020, just before we weren't able to. We went out with modelling clay, and we took molds of different rock and fossil formations on the island. They were then 3D scanned and made into a a CAD model and made into glass. And so holding it is like holding an island in your hand. Every single peak of that bottle is a true part of Raasay.
Wow. So what you're telling me is that on this bottle, so these designs are not just someone who's made it in Photoshop and then sort of put it on. Like this is actually
Yeah, these are real.
this is a real kind of
that
implant
ammonite
of
is from the island, and these fossils and rock kind of I guess molds were all found on Raasay and across the whole island. So no, it's not just a sort of artistic impression of the island. It is literally, every single indent is a piece of Raasay.
an actual kind of
Mold bit,
ancient thing,
Yeah.
What do you call them? The spiral? What are they called? What do you call
the
them?
ammonite.
Yeah, the ammonites. Yeah,
is the
a
fossil
real
up here.
ammonite like shell was used. Wow,
And,
how good!
And it's really to encapsulate that geological story, but also just it's a beautiful place, and we wanted the whiskey to really be, provenance is a key part of what we do in everything. We can get into details, but we wanted the whiskey to really be a sort of encapsulation of the Isle of Raasay.
It's so good. So let's get to the liquid then. What do we got here? What is this bottle you? Yeah, nice. Start the dress up, yeah.
Cheers. So here we've got our core single malt. So this is our kind of signature style, and it is important for us. While we do have other expressions from the distillery, it is important for us to kind of carve a unique style that's really Raasay all over. And we call this the Dram, which is just a kind of fun way of naming our single malt. And this is essentially what we would describe as a Hebridean style of whiskey. And for us, that's lightly peated with rich dark fruit flavors. So a light smoke and fruitiness. And we developed a completely kind of unique recipe to create that whiskey. And so 80% of our production goes into what is a very unconventional cask policy when you compare it to other distilleries in Scotland. We have 50% of the year we produce heavily peated spirit, and 50% of the year we produce unpeated spirit. And that's then matured separately in 3 cask types for our core recipe. Ex-rye casks from Kentucky, virgin Chinkapin oak casks. And Chinkapin we can maybe dive into, but it's a species of North American white oak. And then ex-Bordeaux red wine casks. So 2 spirit types, 3 cask types, all matured separately, and then married together to produce our core style of lightly peated. No guesses how we achieve that. And then the rich dark fruit flavors, which we believe we're the only single malt in Scotland that's making a whiskey with this cask recipe, and for us, that's really, really important in our identity.
Yeah, and it's cool how you're separate. So you're doing a distillation unpeated, a distillation peated.
Yeah.
Because I've heard that if you just kind of suddenly switch, like one day you're in peated, one day you're not, isn't it, like there's something about the still, like it can.
So we get we actually have a sort of intermediate peat for a week or so between our heavily peated runs and our unpeated runs.
Yeah.
We get a period of time where it's essentially the unpeated spirit is flowing through all the equipment on Raasay. So we get these periods of intermediate peat that we've tucked away for some kind of interesting release in the future. We have done one single cask with the Independent Whisky Bars of Scotland with Phil and Simon, organised it from the Thompson Bros.
Oh, cool.
And we collaborated on a single cask for a group of the group of Independent Whisky Bars of Scotland, and that was an intermediate peat release, which was quite interesting. Thing to do.
Wow. And so for those of you, if you don't know much about runs and cuts and that thing, go watch my How Whiskey is Made video. But yeah, I'm going to try this on.
We'll dive in. Yeah, so that light peat is an important aspect of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so you get that kind of fruitiness on the nose from the ex-Bordeaux red wine casks. We also have 3 and 5 day fermentations, which develops a real kind of blackcurrant character in our new make. Right. So if you put your nose in there, you get a bit of the smoke.
So because the fermentation is, you said,
longer than
more of a
industry standard. Yeah, you get more of a blackcurrant kind of note in your new make. And so we have a fruity new make, but then we also have these ex-Bordeaux red wine casks as part of our recipe. So sticking your nose in there, you're probably getting these kind of cherries, blackcurrants, kind of real fruity characteristics. They're quite, I would say, unconventional in the landscape of Scotch whiskey, you know, there's lots of you know, kind of sherry cask matured whiskies which have, you know, dried fruits and things like that, nuttiness. And then there's the kind of orchard fruits that you get in a lot of Speyside whiskies, but you know, getting kind of black currant and cherry
Berry
flavors in
sort of,
whiskey is quite unique.
Yeah.
And
Really
then
unique.
have a wee drink. But yeah, you get again that kind of little bit of spiciness from the rye cask, like black pepper spice, sweetness from the Jinkapan cask, like kind of caramel, toffees, but then those dark fruits and that warming peat smoke afterwards. So
Yeah.
yeah, the lightly peated aspect is something which, you know, we find our fans really enjoy, because it's more of an approachable kind of, you know, level of peat than maybe some, you know, heavier peated whiskies from Islay.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic because, you know, when people say, look, I want something that's peated but more lightly peated, you know, often people will be say, you know, it's been Highland Park or something. But to have something else which is that lighted peat, that little bit of kind of the salt, the pepper on top, a little bit of smoke coming through, and then I really like and it does feel like it almost fits in as an island. If you were to say, I mean, I know regions you can't, there's exceptions to every rule, but it does have that salty bit come through and that little bit of smoke. Not,
you know, we like to kind of think, because often we get asked, you know, what other whiskies are like or something, you know, these sorts of questions. And actually, we can't really answer it because Raasay just distinctly tastes like Raasay.
it does,
which is a really important thing
to.
for us. It's not, you know, this was never about creating following a trend or anything like that. We've, you know, developed a completely unconventional approach of making it, and for us that's core to our identity and key to who we are. And that
The finish is really long.
Yeah, really kind of nice and approachable. And it's interesting, peat being quite divisive. And sometimes when, say, we're at a festival here, somebody might come up and go, oh, I don't like peat, and I go, okay, hold on a minute, why don't you try this and just see what you think? And you know, kind of 8, 9 times out of 10 you do get,
oh, actually it doesn't taste like a cigar.
So
and also I'll just go back to let's have another look at that bottle. So what I really like as well, so we've seen like the fossil stuff, but if you look at this side, you've got all this information, which I think for a whiskey geek. So in this bottle here, it is 46.4%. And you can see the cask makeup that went into it. I'll just give you a little close up there. You can see all the information down to with the water, how the water flows through the dress, you know, all the stuff, natural color, it's non-chill filtered, lightly peated, and rich dark fruit flavors. And I just love all the cool little information and the cask makeup. I'll just get that bit. As you're saying, the rye cask, Jinkapan, border red wine cask.
And we really tried to squeeze as much as we could onto the label, and you know, give people true transparency. And so there's a wee kind of infographic for the cask recipe. So you'll see on the side of our label these 6 different kind of cask icons, and then we have you know, other information related to how it's made. So the lightly peated with rich dark fruits statement here is very important to, you know, to get the point across that I was making flavor profile, but trying to just describe it not in long flavor notes and tasting notes, but just in a kind of a simple way, you know, light peat, rich dark fruits. And we found that's been quite helpful in, you know, guiding people who are maybe new to the whiskey as to what it might taste like before they open it. So,
and I really like that you're sort of playing both sides. Like you've got, it's very approachable for a beginner, the basic information. But if you also want to go really deep, he showed you a lot of, like, if you want to know the information, the geeks can find out too. And that's a big thing with my channel, you know, starting with broad categories, getting more specific. It's a big thing I found, that rather than just starting specific, you know, taking people on that journey and showing them. A big part of my channel is actually sort of educating people on, like, because people get confused about casks and stuff. Like I did one on oak and I did one on wine casks and stuff. But once you learn, it actually can help you enjoying whiskey, because you're like, oh, I've never tried something in a rye cask. Or
And if anyone on the watching has a bottle, you'll see on the top right of the label here, there's a little batch code. If you go on our website and you go to the Dram, which is the name of our signature single malt, and you go to inside this release, this little button, it'll take you down to a set of tables that have all the different batches we've released,
cool.
and all sorts of fun information about them.
Yeah.
Interesting information.
So is this kind of this is the hero release? Like this is the main one most people are able to find.
Yeah.
I saw someone saying that they could find it in Canada, which is really cool. Let's go back to Bandcamp. Tigers could see it in Canada, which is awesome. Which is cool. Actually, a few of the whiskies I was talking about yesterday with other people, some of the Canadians couldn't get. So it's cool that you guys actually, the availability seems to be quite good.
Yeah, so we of our kind of, we're developing a bit of a core range. We've got the Dram, and then we have Duncana, which is our sherry quarter cask release, which I don't have today because I believe we're trying to not be here.
I'll get some shots for the. I will be doing a vlog. I'll come and we'll get some shots of it later. Yeah.
And then we have a range of single casks that we deconstruct the Dram, so we deconstruct that 6 cask recipe and release them as single casks, so that people have the opportunity to taste the distinct flavor profile that each cask is kind of bringing to the party. So yeah, we have a range of whiskies, but this is really the hero product.
And John B, actually on that, John asks, what does Chinkapin Oak add that's different? What do you think it is about Chinkapin Oak that? Well, first of all, touching it briefly, what even is it?
Yeah.
And what is Chinkapin Oak?
Yeah. So I'll dive into that a little bit. So Alistair, who's our co-founder and master distiller, he has a degree in botany.
Oh, does he?
So
how
has
interesting.
a real fascination of what the impact of oak species specifically will have on a whiskey. And we've done a bit of work exploring the impact of different oak species, and one in particular, Chinkapin oak, is a species of oak. It's the common name for Quercus muhlenbergi, which is a species of North American oak. Now, the Chinkapin oak casks are high char and high toast, so that caramelizes the natural sugars in the wood, and in terms of the flavor it imparts that's distinctive, it's kind of real flavors of like kind of caramel, toffee, almost a wee bit candied flavors. And in our single cask series that I've referenced, we call it the Nashia single cask series, means the 6. No guesses as to why we call it that. Yeah. And no prizes, sorry. And the Chinkapin casks in particular just have real bold flavors of like caramel, toffee. And so that is one that we wanted to bring into our core product to kind of balance the Dram. But we've also we're launching a series that's exploring different oak species, not just Chinkapin, but Quercus humboldti, Quercus robur, Quercus petraeus. So you'll see something coming soon that's a real kind of exploration of this.
So if you guys want to know about oak, I actually did a whole video on oak. Yeah, Quercus alba being the American oak. Quercus, if I can remember right. Quercus robur and Quercus petraeus, the 2 European ones.
Yeah.
And I remember
Quercus humboldti is Colombian.
Right. That one's probably a bit more rare. I don't know too much.
Yeah, we have a release over on our stand.
Oh, true. I have to come try it. Might have to force them to be grabbed out.
But yeah, it's quite amazing how they've all never had a prior tenant, for want of a better word, in the casks. Yeah. And the difference in spirit, in how the spirit develops in each of them, is so fascinating that so virgin oak isn't just virgin oak.
It's true. Yeah, even virgin oak. Yeah, so like even virgin oak. This is what I love about the new wave of kind of all these new distilleries, the way they're doing things, and especially, because I was talking to Dave Brim a couple of days ago, and he was talking about, back in the day, it was all about efficiency. Efficiency. How much whiskey can we make, as fast as possible, and that we were with you guys, like these new distillers like you, like Ardnamurchan, all them. A lot of stuff is super inefficient. Your longer fermentation times, doing all these different cask types. And because you're flavor forward, it seems to be its flavor's the priority. It's not just like pumping it out. And,
No. Flavor and quality is the key priorities. And we're one of the smallest distilleries in Scotland. We're only 225,000 litres of pure alcohol, which for Scotland is extremely small. And we're really trying to push the boundaries of flavor, not just with casks, but also with our new make. So the 2 different styles gives us flexibility, gives us kind of ability to explore different whiskies, make different whiskies, but also before the new make, the long fermentation times are definitely inefficient relative to to the more commercial distilleries.
Yeah.
And
There's
so
lots of people here. So, Simone here from NZ and up in Auckland. She's tried the RO2, said that was great.
yeah.
I mean, kind of what was it? Raasay has such cool bottles. I'll have to buy one soon. And Anthony Sillett was saying inner staves or different oak on the heads. I feel like that's a.
The staves is what's the question?
I'm not sure. I think
Inner staves or different oak on the heads.
I'm not sure.
So they're all it's all the same oak, both the heads and the staves.
Right.
So we're buying casks that are 100% Kirkus and Balti, or 100% Kirkus Portrait, or 100% Kirkus Robur. So
I
they're
see.
separate casks.
Yeah.
Rather than, I think the question might have been, are we mixing the staves with different oak
Right.
types?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been awesome to talk to you. I'm going to get you back to your stand so you can introduce all the people here at DramFest. This cool whiskey. Thanks for coming to New Zealand.
Thank you very
It's
much.
been a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, good
It's
to meet you, Phil, and thanks everyone who made the effort to join.
Yeah.
And listen about that.
Yeah, and thank you for the dram.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Cheers, guys.
It's lovely.
Sanja.
Mm.
The wee mini link here.
Yeah, so good. Oh, it's actually a DramFest one.
Yeah, it's
you
just
find
we got them at the stand for a little while.
Oh, right. I have to look up for them.
To just taste our range a couple more times.
Yeah.
Check that it's all okay.
Awesome. Sweet. If you could just grab, I think Starward is just around the corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Too.
Grab her on the way out.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, and we'll come chat
Okay.
again soon.
Yeah. Cheers, Phil.
Cheers,
very
mate.
much.
Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Soon. See ya.
See ya.
That was really great. If you guys have any, John, great stuff, definitely. And if you guys have any questions coming up,
Hey,
we're
you're
going to be
on.
talking
Nice
to
to meet you. I'm
Starward.
William.
Get your questions in now. She's about to hop on
Shoot.
to the
Yeah,
set
enjoy.
here, and
See you.
we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about Australian whiskey and some of the really interesting things going on. Come on up. So we are live now, by the way. Oh yeah. Feel free, you can grab a glass. Oh, good.
I've tried sour before.
You tried it before, yeah?
Yeah, I've tried it before. So it's okay.
Um,
I'll put my bottles in there.
yeah, I'll put your bottles up here. Yeah, that'd be great. So, for those who don't know who you are, what's your role at Starward?
I'm a head distiller and head blender.
Take the mic.
Oh. Maybe it's not.
I forgot to tell them about the mic. Hang on. I'll give you. It's all right. We've got this one. You
cool.
might have taken the mic. I forgot to tell them to take it off.
Want to
Yes.
go get it?
No. We'll just point the mic like this. There we go. So this is really exciting because last year you guys all know that I did a video with Wade from McIntyre Malts. We looked at New Zealand and Australian whiskey.
Yeah.
So the concept of the video was I sent him 5 drams from New Zealand distilleries, and he sent me 5. Oh yeah, thank you very much.
Just at this one. I thought that you might come live when I was in there.
Oh, so good. Oh, good. Cheers. So yeah, you just pop this onto your collar, just like a clip, and then I'll just turn that up, and then I can get this back down. Here we go. Let's get that back. There we go. He took the mic. Jumped. Yeah, he took the mic.
That would have been funny if he was talking about Raasay in the background. Maybe.
Yeah, you might have got some. Who knows what happened there? But I didn't mute it. Yeah, and he gave me 5 drams, and one of those was from Starward.
Great.
And
Do you know which one it was?
so he gave me the Nova, which is kind of I think that's like your main hero sort of
Yeah.
introduction.
Yeah.
And the other one we tried was the peated cask,
Oh yeah. Cool.
which I was a big fan of. I really like
yeah,
peated
yeah.
cask.
I love that expression. It's really cool.
Gandhi Road just said recently bought my first Starward. That was a pick. Love the bottle. Looking forward to hearing more. So first of all, let's zoom out a little bit. So Starward, where is it?
Yeah.
So it's from Australia, Australian whiskey.
Australian whiskey, yes.
Yeah.
It is in Melbourne, so 10 minutes from the CBD. A lot of us are ex-brewers and from wine, So we get a lot of our barrels from wineries.
Cool.
Most of what we do is red wine cask. We do some expressions in bourbon cask and other projects, but yeah, everything is wine cask. And we would like to bring whiskey to the table to have it with food. And so our whiskeys are very approachable. They're made with like a winemaker's kind of lens as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually, part of it is that you think it can pair well with food, not just like not just a nightcap kind of thing. It's actually you can sit down and have. Yeah.
We've like everything about Starward is sort of like changing how people approach whiskey and the idea of it. So yeah, definitely bring it to the table, paired with food. Our cellar door has an amazing restaurant which does pair our whiskies, and great bar. You can see the distillery in the background too.
This audio coming through here. Hello. You can still hear? Okay, that's better. Sorry, can you just say that last bit again? I think it just cut out there for a bit.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, Australian whiskey.
Yeah.
What is it?
So yeah, most of what we do is wine cask, and
Yeah.
all of our ingredients in the whiskey is a day's drive from the distillery. So our barley's from Geelong, which is an hour away. We're in the CBD and surrounded by a lot of restaurants. Like Melbourne is like a very cosmopolitan place. We have a bar and a restaurant at the distillery, which we pair our whiskies with our food. We want to bring whiskey to the table and it not be a nightcap. Well, it can be a nightcap as well. But
Yeah, you can pair. That's what's really cool. Yeah, because that's something with wine. Like before I started my whiskey channel, I was actually at the point I could have gone wine, or I was into both kind of just as much. And now, after doing the channel, I can learn a lot more about whiskey now.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that sort of crossover between wine is such an interesting place. We're with whiskey, and a lot of these new distilleries around the world. I was talking to Dave Brim on Friday, and he was talking about it's really interesting. A lot of these distilleries around the world often have some of them have brewery backgrounds or wine backgrounds.
Yeah.
And the complementary nature it comes in, and yeah, with red wines, yeah, it pairs really well with food.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you're saying that's actually something we can do with the Starward.
Yeah,
I didn't even
fully.
thought about that.
Yeah,
That's very true.
And like every barrel is different, like depending on what wine variety, what cooperage. No audio?
I think I can hear it coming through now. You guys can hear her, right? There's a bit of volume. I think he might have been talking about before. Yeah, no, I think too many things. I'm like, multitasking.
This is like live going live as well.
Yeah. I got no crew. It's just me.
yeah. You're doing really well.
Yeah.
So I've brought some whiskies today, which they're all wine casks, but they come from different regions and different varietals and different oak types. There's oak species as well. So every single barrel is different. But our new make is the same. It's the same malt, it's the same yeast, which we use a brewer's malt and a brewer's yeast, which is really cool because we get a lot of fruity tropical flavors from our yeast. Our wash smells like Pro Garden before we distill it.
True.
Yeah.
So what was the yeast? What was the yeast you're using?
It's like a Belgian ale style.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
like a Belgian, is it sort of like a heavy sort of funky yeast or something?
Yeah.
And do you have two different types of yeast? Or?
Yeah, we co-pitch, so we use the distiller's yeast to fully attenuate the wash.
Do the heavy lifting.
Do the heavy lifting.
And then bring the weird one in the end.
Bring the weird one in, yeah. The weird one is our signature style.
The colourful one.
Yeah, the colourful ones. So like our new make smells like bananas, red apple, very tropical, bright.
Cool. Yeah. So we'll go to DramCam. Let's go DramCam. Let's have a look at these bottles. So tell me a little bit about these bottles. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, sure. So
I'll bring this across a little bit.
So twofold is our entry-level whiskey. It's a blended whiskey, so it's 60% wheat, 40% single malt. The ratios change now and then, but not by much, and fully matured in red wine casks. Predominantly American oak hoggies, so this is quite a soft, delicate whiskey with like coconut, vanilla, honey. It's really easygoing, very versatile. Nova is our single malt, our red wine cask. This has French and American in it as well, but more French, so it's quite a light, floral whiskey. with the red fruits as well. So really, really good with red meats because it's got a
I need to
spice.
do this. I need to try this now because I have a bottle of that, and I'm like, you're so right. Because yeah, if you had some red meat and some of that,
Yeah.
oh, how
yeah.
interesting. Even in summer, even like maybe with the big ice cube, like
Yeah,
it could be
totally.
really nice.
Yeah, 100%. And we do a lot of events at restaurants in Melbourne, and we let the chef curate the menu and do the pairings, and it's really fun. Like you get to eat, drink good whiskey, and then the Octaves is matured in Yalumba 100-litre wine cask. So that's all American oak. It goes into their wine called Octavius,
Right.
which is a big, like, bodied Barossa Valley Shiraz.
This one here.
Yeah.
So you can see here. Yeah, so if for those of you who, if you don't know much about Australia, I'm sure there'll be a few Australians in right now, but Barossa Valley is a very kind of famous, for people in wine, a very famous wine region that you've got access to.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing. And like we, when we first started distilling, Dave founded the company in 2007. We were using Australian Apera casks, which is like the Australian sherry.
Yes.
And they were small format, 50 litres, 100 litres. And that's an excellent whiskey. We do have another one called Solera that those wine casks go into. But they're rarely available. So has been hard. So that's why we made the transition to go to red wine.
Right.
And Dave really just took a jump at it without really knowing what was going to happen, because we do full maturation in wine casks. And it's not a finish, which was very unusual back then.
Yeah.
And it makes us distinct. Like, come to Starward, try this amazing Melbourne whiskey, and have great food and great coffee. Yeah.
I will say probably, I mean, I've traveled all over the world with my wife. I think we went to like 40 countries, but I think one of the best places I've ever been to for food is Melbourne. Like my mate there, Nick Jackson, if you're watching, he's a good friend of mine. He lives there. And every restaurant he took to me is just like, this is like the best. Like we went, just like random things. Like I went to a Japanese restaurant. I was like, this is the best Japanese I've ever had. But we're in Melbourne. And then I'll go to the next one and the next one. Really cool food scene. And it's cool to see you almost fitting into kind of the theme, almost of the city of Melbourne in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, like, Starward's a very, like, typical expression of Melbourne because our maturation is quite rapid. We have, like, it can get to -4 in winter and then, like, up to 40 degrees. The hottest I've ever worked was a 45-degree day, which was crazy. I didn't go outside very much. I was mainly in the office.
45?
But the distillery isn't air-conned or anything, so it's just like a corrugated roof. And so it's about 5 degrees hotter inside there. So that's making our barrels work really hard. So our whiskies are mature and balanced by 3 years old.
Yeah.
Most of what we blend in Nova and Twofold is around 4, and then our projects are a bit older, like 5 to 7.
Yeah.
But we don't do any age statements either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this a lot on my channel, is I think age statements falls apart a lot of the time with world whiskey, because sure, you can take a Speyside and the distillery across the road. Yeah, maybe you compare the two 10-year-olds, but especially with say like places like Waiheke whiskey here, where they're probably similar to you, very rapid angel share, different climate, and it's just oh yes,
sorry,
please.
I
Thank you very much.
You drive. That's rude of me.
That rapid, that you can't compare them, and it's not that, you know, some people might say, you know, like 10 years here is equal to 4 years here. And for me personally, I don't think it's even that. It's like comparing steak and pulled pork.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, totally.
They're good in different ways, but it's almost, it's where age statements kind of, so especially for people who know a little bit about whiskey and they go, oh, so is it a 10-year-old? It's like, well, this is not quite the same. It's sort of like saying, has this steak been aged for 48 hours in a smoker? It's like, well, you wouldn't want that with a...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Like if we left our whiskey in barrel for 10 years, most of it will be evaporated, and it will be very tannic and astringent, and very, very dark and not very balanced. So.
And vice versa, I find, like, I mean, I've tried quite a few scotches at 3 years old that I wouldn't really drink very often, or I'm not a huge fan of, but pretty much most New Zealand and Australian whiskies I've had at 3 years old been great 2 years old.
Yeah, I know.
Fantastic.
It's actually, it's crazy.
This is really nice.
Thank you.
I've not had this one.
Yeah, it's really good.
A lot of caramel. There's sort of like this darker kind of nuttiness, and then there's big red fruits
Yeah.
coming through.
Yeah, exactly. And this
Mm.
this has a mixture of wet filled cask and charred.
Yum.
So some of our wine casks we get shaved, toasted, and recharred. That adds an element of complexity on the palate, and rounds out the finish as well. So yeah, it's really good.
Macca just said, my daughter got me twofold and Nova 200 mils coming through duty free. Like them both. Would like to try more.
Yeah.
I would say just to you right now, Macca, this is fantastic. The what do you call it? Octave barrels? Yeah.
Yes.
And I really like the peated cask as well. I mean, you guys all know that. And do you think we'll see Starward in Canada soon? I know the US gets it though.
The US does get it, yeah. I think it would be very smart to go into Canada. It's difficult though with Canadians, the laws within distribution, but we could definitely try. I mean, I'm just in production, so I mainly work with making the whiskey.
Yeah.
So,
hopefully soon. You might have to go over the border and
that would be so
grab
cool.
some.
I'd love to visit Canada because I'm actually a Kiwi. I don't know if you can hear it in my accent.
That's what I was thinking. I was
like,
hang on. What?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've been in Melbourne for 10 years. So
Right.
I've heard that Canada's quite similar to New Zealand. Like the nice people.
Yeah.
We've got we've both got a big, annoying older brother. So
yeah. Like I went through Canada a few years ago. We went through Banff and Jasper. Beautiful. It's actually a place, out of all the places I want to go and take my kids on a road trip, I'd love to go back there. Just get one of the big vans. And
that would be amazing.
have one of those rooftop things, a juicy van or something.
Yeah, for sure.
And how you finding DramFest?
It's been really good. The crowd is really, really nice. Like everyone's so interested and engaged, and some New Zealanders like when they hear that it's Australian, they're like, "Oh, is it going to be any good?" And then they get completely surprised, and they're like, "Oh, that's actually good."
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's busy.
Yeah, really busy.
Yeah.
So where in New Zealand are you from?
I'm from Morrisville.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the North Island.
Oh, wow. I used to live in Cambridge for a little while.
Oh, did
Growing
you?
up. Yeah.
That's great.
Down the road. My mum actually taught at Morrisville High.
Really? Oh, wow.
There's New Zealand connections right here.
Do you know where?
Huh?
Do you know where?
It would have been around like 99 to the 2003.
Yeah.
2000. Around then that time. I'm not sure
Crazy.
exactly.
Yeah.
My mum taught there, yeah.
Small world.
Wild.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So is there anything overall? I know you got to go to the next thing
Oh, yeah.
soon.
No,
What would you say? Where do you feel like Australian whiskey is at the moment, and where is it going? And do you have any sort of like over in New Zealand as well? Like, are you excited about the scene and?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Australian whiskey it's really big in Australia, but it still has a long way to go globally.
Yeah.
Our biggest market is domestic, but we've won a lot of awards. We've won most awarded distillery in the world twice by San Francisco Spirits Awards for like most of our products.
Right.
Like we've got double golds for most of our products.
Yeah.
So we're pushing really hard to try and get at least twofold on the back bar in the States and like globally too. I think it's really cool that the New World has a room for expression through like experimental yeasts, malts, barrels. So there's a lot of diversity in Australia. And for New Zealand, I'm really excited as well. I still think it's quite a young industry here.
Yeah.
And just like Australia, like when we first started, like there was only a handful of distilleries when Starward started. Now it's in the hundreds.
It's crazy.
It's
A lot of people
crazy.
don't realize that how many
it's
distilleries there actually are.
It's crazy. If you include all spirits, there's like 350 distilleries in Australia, plus.
I think my next big trip I want to do, because people I've had a few times in my Q&A videos and stuff, people have said, you know, which region would you most like to visit? But I've been to Speyside and Isla and stuff. It actually would be probably going to Melbourne, then going over to Tasmania and seeing all the distilleries there.
Yeah.
I think you could do quite a lot in a single trip.
Oh, of course, yeah. And every distillery has such a different expression. And when we did start, you know, everyone was aging in small format and whiskeys were big and over extracted and like people didn't really know what they were doing, but we're growing as an industry together, and now we're like winning awards and like internationally. And I see that New Zealand's coming up out of that phase of like just starting out, and then I'm so excited. Like, it's an amazing story. New Zealand whiskey, like, it's a beautiful country.
Yeah, so, it's cool to see sort of this corner of the world, the sort of in the Pacific, you know, to see some really good whiskies from here. And I always talk about on my channel, like, you know, you have sort of, you know, there's the sort of bourbon flavor profiles, and there's only so far they can sort of go. And then you have sort of Scotch, which can play with peat, they can play with some other things. But then world whiskey, you're coming out here. It's like this one here, aged fully in a Barossa wine cask. Shiraz barrel. And so you're not just getting your classic sherry cask, like dried fruit notes, you know, those big bold of red fruits that you would find in those wines. That you might not find in like a sherry bomb or some sort of, you know, which is really cool to see.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being on here. It's been great. It's great to talk to you. I'm going to let you get to your next thing. I'm sure you're going to got my forum. So.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So, see ya. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
See ya. Okay, do you want these? I'll grab the microphone.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
Thank you. Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone who's joined today for day 3 of DramFest. If you haven't been to DramFest, there should be another one in 2 years' time. And it's a pretty cool event. And thank you for all of you who have joined. If you're watching the replay, I'll hopefully go through and put some timestamps in and stuff for you. And let me know who you want to see next. It's been cool to actually talk to actual distillers, not just me behind the desk. And really appreciate you all coming in, watching along. And above all, make sure you share and enjoy beauty.